Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to see you. It's Saturday, but we're going to be wrapping up Friday's testimony on Saturdays because as soon as court is adjourned, I hit the road for Greenville to get home to the ones I love the most. And that way I'm not worn out and trying to do this at midnight on Friday night. So first off, got to give a big shout out to my favorite food truck there. You guys know there was all these stories that they were bringing in food trucks to feed the press, and thank goodness they did. We have several options, and they're all good, but this is my favorite, Shorty Smoking Butts. They have the best macaroni and cheese. The only other would be my mom's, but I see them every day. I always get double sides of mac and cheese, and their pulled pork's great. And I like the Carolina Gold barbecue sauce. I'm a golden girl. It's a Southern thing, I think, the mustard based sauce, but so good. And then they have this cinnamon bun, honey bun cake that her mom makes. Oh my gosh, y'all. I could eat like a whole pan of it. It's so good. So I wanted to give them a shout out. Also, shout outs to the Alibis that I've met. This is a small portion of the listeners that I've been able to meet, and just everybody's amazing. I have the best listeners. You guys are all my family. That's how I really do feel. It's interesting to meet people who have been there from day one, and then new listeners who come up and say, "Hey, I just found your podcast for this trial or Wagner or whatever," and just it's been great meeting everybody. All right, so thank you to Spirit Angels, Angel, Amy, Marie, Amy N, Liz, Diane, and Deanna for your donations, and I appreciate your generosity. Music fact of the day, got my Fleetwood Mac shirt on. Today is the 50th anniversary of the release of the album Rumors, my absolute favorite by Fleetwood Mac. Now, the song The Chain, which is an amazing song, I love it, is the only song that was credited to all 5 members of the band, and it's based on an unreleased song by Christine McVie. And that song was kind of built on a handful of music fragments with a keyboard-driven track by Miss Christine McVie, the late, great Christine McVie. And that was a song called Keep Me There. So, day 10. And I'm doing day 10 because for me, jury selection day 1 starts the trial for me. So I do day 10. So don't get confused if other channels call it, day 7 or whatever. So the first witness, we're still doing this sort of 2 trials in 1. The judge has to rule on whether or not these financial crimes can come in. And I don't know how much of it's going to come in, but whatever does, it's going to add some time to the trial because the witnesses that are testifying, whatever the judge deems appropriate to let in, they're going to have to come back and do the same testimony for the jury. So the first witness yesterday morning outside the presence of the jury was Jan Malinowski. He actually was one of the main witnesses at Russell Laffitte's federal trial, which was just a few months ago, where he was found guilty of crimes associated with Alec Murdaugh. And so Jan is the current president and CEO of Palmetto State Bank. He got that role in August of 2022, replacing Russell Laffitte. So essentially, on August 6th of 2021, Alec's account was over by $347,000, almost $348,000. And on August the 9th, there is a deposit to that account for $400,000. The same day, Norris Laffitte sends an email kind of wanting to know what's up with this account, I guess. So that deposit by Russell Laffitte to cover that overdraft, he didn't use a loan application. He didn't go through any official means to get the loan. Kind of a wink, wink. There you go. We got you, buddy. And Creighton Water says this is perhaps the most generous overdraft policy ever seen. And the witness says quite possibly. So on August 9th, Norris Laffitte asked for full accounting of the bank's relationship with Alec. And then on the 12th of August in 2021, bank leaders meet to discuss Alec and his relationship with the bank. At this point, he owed $4.2 million to that bank. So Creighton Waters asked if it had come out prior that he was stealing money from his firm and the clients, would you guys have loaned him money? And he says, of course not. So there was a loan for $750,000, which Alex says was going to be used to remodel the Edisto beach house, but he used that to pay overdraft fees and also to pay back Chris Wilson for that Mack truck case to reimburse the legal fees in that. And so ultimately, the bank determined the loan that Alex had, it was non-performing, and the bank's executives decides it's time to take it off the books. It doesn't remove his obligation to repay that loan, but he was paying on the notes even though it was off the books. Um, so in the end, Palmetto State Bank apparently profited $4 million from the interest, I guess, of the money going in and out of that account. But yeah, so just one of the very few uh, witnesses. I think in the future there's going to be so many financial things come in that we don't know about yet. And where's all this money? You're like, where's the money, Lebowski? Like $10 million. Where'd all this go? Next up, man, what an amazing job. Gloria Satterfield's son, Tony Satterfield, testified as part of the financial crimes stuff. And as we know, she died on February 26, 2018, fell at the Murdaugh property. And she had worked for Alec and Maggie for 20 plus years. She would babysit, clean. He got to know the family too, and he trusted Alec. And he said, Alec, let me go after my insurance money for this. And that would take care of the medical bills and also get some money for him and his brother. And he said he wanted to take care of them. There was a lawsuit filed. And of course, Alec was their attorney, but he brought in Corey Fleming and telling Tony that essentially he couldn't sue himself and saying it was a conflict of interest. But what he failed to tell Tony is that Corey Fleming was like his best friend and his college roommate and Buster's godfather. And he also brought in Chad Westendorf. He said Chad should be Tony and his brother's personal representative. He met with Chad only once. So throughout the time after Miss Satterfield died, he's still kind of communicating with Alec, though, about the lawsuit. Alec didn't tell him about the umbrella policy of $5 million that he had, but he told Tony he was hoping to get him and his brother about $100,000 apiece. Man, at some point they get this notice that they're going to be evicted from their trailer. And also, he was getting these medical bills, and Tony didn't know what to do. So he called Alec. Alec said, forward the medical bills to him. He said Alec kept him up to date every few months. He said the case was making progress, but it was hard. And then finally, when the media reported about the settlement, family members of the Satterfield saw it on the news and told him, not Alec, right? So the family said, hey, follow up on it. So he called Alec in June of 2021, around the time of the murders. Now, he wasn't sure if it was before or after. And at this point, Alec had already won $505,000 and $3.8 million in doing these lawsuits. So when Tony talked to Alec, he again said, hey, we're making progress. It should be good by the end of the year. And Creighton Waters asked, did you give him permission to steal your money? No. There was $505,000 that was diverted by Alec. The umbrella policy he had for $3.8 million, diverted by Alex. These kids never got a penny from Alec before everything happened. And we know he confessed to doing this in court. And Eric Bland has been such a great advocate and attorney for these boys. He was on our live Q&A yesterday. Said they're taken care of for life now. He has recovered a lot of money for them, and as the boys should be taken care of. I think this could be one of the most damaging things to come in for Alec, because you're talking about a housekeeper that worked for you for 20 plus years, and you're telling his sons, hey, look, you got to sue me. I'll take care of you. And then he gets the money and runs. So I think out of most of the financial crimes, this one would be the most devastating by far for that jury to hear, because she was like family to them. And, that's how low he went, y'all. So on cross, they weren't really easy on him. Essentially just pointed out he couldn't say exactly when he spoke to Alec in June. By the way, they still have not exhumed Gloria Satterfield's body. The family gave permission for them to do so, but they haven't. And yesterday, also on the Q&A we did at lunchtime, Eric Bland was on. He said the boys do not feel like the Murdaughs had anything nefarious to do with their mom's death. So the next witness is Carson Burney from the South Carolina Attorney General's office. He does forensic accounting. And so he traces assets from the source to where it goes, from like that first deposit, where it comes from, that deposit, and then where it is dispersed to. He reviewed bank statements, loans, wire information, money orders, all kinds of stuff like that. And he just traced where these stolen funds went. He went to that fake Forge account and just followed the money. He mentions Alec had written cousin Eddie personal and cashier checks totaling $2.4 million over a period of time. So they traced some funds, $792,000. He traced, and he named off where it went. Some of it went to the Wilson Law Group, things like that. Then sent to different bank accounts. Primarily went from Forge to different Bank of America accounts and Palmetto State Bank accounts that Alec had. Next up, Thomas Darnell fingerprint with SLED. So the jury's back in at this point. He said it's really rare to find prints on cartridge casings because the cartridges are subject to heat and friction, and the prints are just really super fragile. And on the casings, no fingerprint evidence. He just says you don't find them a lot. None on the shotgun shells. Actually, the shotgun here, this is a witness that came later in the day, but they did not get any prints on the shotgun. It has texture. He explains that makes it hard to get a print. Now, Paul's cell phone, there was a small amount of a print on the phone, but no value for comparison. I want to know about trace DNA, like in Paul's back pocket, where that phone came from, where it popped out, and see if there's any kind of trace DNA. But then at the same time, you think Alec he was a prosecutor. He prosecuted murder cases. He probably wore gloves and did other things to protect any kind of DNA connecting him directly to anything associated with these murders. And then they show the 300 blackout rifle. It's a Mossberg shotgun, and then another shotgun. No value for comparison on any of those. They used the super glue fuming to get the prints. There was a 30-round magazine full of 300 blackout cartridges, no value. He collected some swabs, let them air dry, put them in an envelope, and then they go to the DNA department. So people were like, when are we going to hear about what DNA came from these swabs? Well, the person that takes the swab testifies. We will not find out results of any DNA stuff until the DNA expert comes to testify. So they testify, yeah, I collected the swabs and submitted it. Then later we'll hear, I'm interested about DNA as well, because we don't know what they found DNA wise. So Harpootlian talks about he does the cross, and he's pointing out things that weren't done at the scene, like swabbing the doorknob of the room there near where Paul was shot. This guy was not on scene, by the way. He didn't see any notes that crime scene. There we go, y'all. Brain, mouth, like opposite directions. That they examined any kind of fingerprints in blood or bodily fluids. The witnesses said he would have looked, but there was nothing in the notes to indicate they had. So Harpootlian says you found no evidence of prints, and he said, I did. It just wasn't enough to compare. On the cell phone, Maggie's cell phone, no value. Latent prints are very fragile. It had rained that night. There was water, rain. It could be detrimental to fingerprint evidence left behind. And the other long guns that he tested, nothing. So Harpootlian said Alec was seen holding the shotgun when first responders came, got it from his house after he saw the bodies. You found no evidence of fingerprints. And he said that prints aren't always left, and there's a lot of variables as to why there aren't any prints left on things. So on redirect, they just talk about it being a very bloody scene, but no bloody prints were submitted to him. So the next few witnesses just are people that collected buccal swabs, which is the DNA, and they mostly have to do with the boat crash survivors, but also CB Rowe, who was the groundskeeper, Connor Cook, who was on the boat, Roger Davis. I think he might be one of the people that helps take care of the dogs at the Moselle property. Anthony Cook, who we know was Mallory Beach's boyfriend at the time, and he survived the crash. Morgan and Miley that were on the boat. And also Randy Murdaugh was buckle swabbed, and others. The names went by fast. I couldn't hear very well. Let me tell you all about our sponsor of the week, Pros. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to hair care, and that's because your hair and your hair goals are completely unique. My hair is dry and frizzy. I wanted to get rid of these problems. Thanks to my personalized Pros routine, I can honestly say I've never been in more love with my hair. First, Pros asked me for my hair goals, which was smoother hair with color protection. Their in-depth consultation also asks about you as a person. Pros ask me really unexpected things like my age, hair length, do I get split ends, and even my zip code, so that Pros can factor in the environment my hair lives in. Next, Pros analyzed all my answers and handpicked clean ingredients to help me reach my hair goals. I use the Scalp Remedy, Clarifying Cleanse, Color Extending Shampoo, and the Smoothing Solution Volume Building Conditioner. I also use the Boar's hairbrush that makes my hair super smooth. My hair is completely different. The frizz is gone and it's so much softer. All their ingredients are sustainably sourced, ethically gathered, and cruelty-free. They're also the first custom beauty brand to go carbon neutral. If you're not 100% positive Pros is the best care hair you've had, they will take the products back, no questions asked. You know your girl's been lacking in the sleep department lately, but I found something that helps me sleep much better when I do sleep. Who knew that a better pillowcase is all you need for better sleep? Let's talk about practicing self-care while you sleep. Set yourself up with better sleep this year with Blissy's award-winning 100% mulberry silk pillowcases. It gives you better hair and skin. Seriously, silk, it's what's best for your hair and skin. It reduces frizz, tangles, and prevents breakage. That's because it keeps the moisture in your hair and your skincare products and natural moisture on your skin, unlike cotton does. You can say goodbye to wrinkly, dry, flaky skin in the morning and wake up with healthier and shinier hair that won't take you an hour to fix. Blissy's pillowcase regulates temperatures, keeping you cool at night. You don't have to flip the pillow anymore, thank goodness. Unlike other silk pillowcases, these are the highest quality silk. And guess what? They're machine washable and durable. Valentine's Day is coming up, so why not give the gift of better sleep? Plus, it comes in gift-ready packaging they'll be sure to love. I love that the pillow stays cool, I don't have to flip it, and no more sleep lines. Everybody loves them. They have a ton of different prints and colors, and they make great gifts because there's an option for literally anyone. Hey, men, they love them too. They have over 1 million raving fans, and you need to be next. Try now, risk-free for 60 nights at blissy.com/whattheworld. Get an additional 30% off. That's Blissy, BLISSY.com/whattheworld, and use code WhatTheWorld to get 30% off. Your skin and your hair will thank you. So the next witness is Paul Greer from SLED. He is in the Tool Marks and Firearms Examiner Department. By the way, I wanted to show you, this is the location of Maggie's phone. So if you're on YouTube and you look at the top of the picture, that is going to be the residence, the house. And then you see at the bottom, you follow that little road. It's definitely not a yellow brick road. Follow that. And then that's the general location of the phone, about a half a mile away from the house, by the way. And also, here is an overhead shot of the Moselle property with the kennels and that former hangar. And you can see kind of the path that goes up. In this top left picture, if you look towards the top at the tree line, you can see the house in the distance. So I wanted to show you guys those things too. All right. So he explains, Paul Greer explains how bullets get their marks. The way the bullet twists and turns in the barrel, it creates those marks that ultimately can tie a bullet to a gun. And then they have a peer review. So once he's found all of his evidence, he sends it to a peer. Now, the peer doesn't know anything that person did to test or anything, and then in the end, if those results match, then they write the report, and that's submitted in as evidence. So, in this case, he got one blackout rifle to examine. And he said the blackout cartridge was designed to be used with a lot of original features of an AR-15. I mean, that is a scary looking gun, y'all. He testified the 300 blackout from the Murdaugh home and the results were inconclusive if this is the exact gun that fired the shots that killed Maggie. But if it wasn't the gun, it came from one pretty much identical to it. Now we know there were 3, and we only know where one is. He talks about grain weight, which is the unit of measurement that they use to measure bullets. So like 7,000 grains is a pound. Here we go with the numbers. My head, y'all gonna see smoke come out my ears. He looked at different kind of shotgun shells, 12 gauge, common type, 410 bore, which is common. I know nothing about shotguns. Also, when items are submitted to SLED, the lab folks don't know anything about the case. They don't know anything. They use heat seal packages to preserve the evidence. So the items, all the fired S&B 300 blackout cartridges cases, he would call it the head stamp. So when he compared the casings found around Maggie Murdaugh's body to older ones found all around the property at Moselle, including earlier in the week on the episode, I talked about how one of Paul and his friends were putting a red dot sight on a gun for Paul, and they were firing that replacement gun right there outside the gun room. And there's like some stairs, and they were leveling it on the handrails. They gathered those, went to the shooting range, and gathered all these casings from this 300 blackout ammo. When they compared it, he said, and this was kind of one of those moments, it had those same matching mechanism marks to conclude they had been loaded into, extracted, and ejected from the same firearm as those at the crime scene around Maggie Murdaugh's body. So the state said that Maggie was killed with one of the Murdaugh family guns, and I think that kind of proved it. So on cross, I mean, his testimony was very, very lengthy. I'm not going to get into it, but on cross, Griffin asked 300 blackout rifles could create the same markings on casings. And Greer said it's hard to say, but he stands by his findings. And when asked if Paul was killed with the camouflage shotgun that Alec had gotten from the house after calling 911, he said he test fired it and the results on the shotgun shell casings were inconclusive. But again, it could be the gun or similar. So that's the one thing that kind of is the big aha, which we know now that whatever gun was used to fire around the Moselle property matched those casings there by her body. And that was sort of the big reveal yesterday. And so, yeah, that's pretty incriminating. Alec was very much in lawyer mode yesterday. He would write notes, hand them to Harpootlian, who would then hand them to Griffin, who was especially with this witness. Very much in lawyer mode yesterday, participating frequently in his own defense. So I'm leaving again tomorrow night to go back down to Walterboro for the week. I'll bring you the latest every day at the end of court, let you know what was said. If you can't watch for 8 hours, you can find out in 30 minutes to an hour what was said. So until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.